All right, y'all, check me out. Welcome to the podcast with Soul. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I want to welcome all of my new subscribers. Y'all see all little Sean stuff, all his stuff I put on the wall, all of his achievements since he was in kindergarten. Share this video. Please leave a comment and hit the thumbs up if you like it. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. I don't care either way. And do me a favor, if you're on Spotify, please subscribe to me on Spotify. And if you're on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram. The Podcast with Soul on Spotify, the Podcast with Soul on Instagram. Dr. Dawn Hughes testified in court at the United States of America versus Sean Combs, the Puffy trial, the Diddy trial. She was introduced as an expert witness of the prosecution. She is a clinical and forensic psychologist since 1998, 27 years. She got her bachelor's degree from Hamilton College in upstate New York. Southeastern Nova College in Florida, studied at Yale, and I think I got her PhD at Cornell. She has a personal practice, a clinical and a forensic psychology practice, and she testified on the stand this past week, May the 21st, 2005, at 10:41 in the morning. And here's all my notes. Okay? I live in North Jersey. I'm about 11 minutes from Manhattan, about 11 miles from Midtown Manhattan. I've been going over to Manhattan every day, following the case, going in the courtroom, listening to the trial in real time, and watching the trial on a big screen television. I'm on the 24th floor in the overflow. The main courtroom where Puffy and all them at is on the 26th floor. And you gotta either be on the list or get there early enough to where you can get into that courtroom, but they're only letting a limited amount of people get into that courtroom on a daily basis. But I'm gonna get in there soon. Dawn Hughes is compromised. Her allegiance is to the Southern District of New York District Court. She has an overly cozy relationship with the prosecutors and the prosecution. And she has a conflict of interest in this case and in every case that she has ever been called to be an expert witness in the Southern District of New York, including the R. Kelly case. And she got utterly destroyed on the stand by a cross-examination by Jonathan Bach of the Shapiro Law Firm, one of Puffy's 8 or 9 attorneys. I don't know how many he got. And I just want to highlight some of the discrepancies and the conflicts and the unethical practices that, and it's bordering on prosecutorial misconduct, right? Which can contribute to a mistrial. Related to Dr. Dawn Hughes. Number one, right off the rip, in this case, and in the R. Kelly case, she was retained as an expert witness by the prosecution from the Southern District of New York. at a rate of $600 per hour or $6,000 per day. She was exposed on the stand under cross-examination by Jonathan Bach, Puffy's attorney, that more than 60% of her income comes from being an expert witness in the court as a forensic psychologist, and 40% comes from just her private clinical practice. Nothing wrong with that. She can make more money doing court work as a forensic expert or an expert witness. But a lot of the revenue and income that she generates is from the Southern District of New York. This is Dawn Hughes's bio. Her background: she's from New York City, bachelor's of arts degree from Hamilton College in upstate New York, where she majored in psychology. She took a job in the South Bronx as a counselor for recovering addicts. There she gained a lot of exposure. After 1 year, Dr. Hughes left the Bronx for Lower Manhattan and pursued her interest in social and psychological issues that arise within the legal system. Check this part out. This is the key. Dawn Hughes was hired as a legal assistant for the federal defenders of the Southern District of New York, where she had the opportunity to research and argue psychological matters relative to the sentencing in front of federal court judges. So before Dawn Hughes opened up her own practice, she was an employee of the Southern District of New York, the very court in prosecution that's prosecuting Puffy, that prosecuted R. Kelly, that's paying her fee for last week when she was there, that she's deriving a lot of her income from in her private practice. She was an employee of them. Yet, she purported to be a blind witness when she got on the stand against R. Kelly, when she got on the stand against Puffy. Jonathan Bach cold busted her during his cross-examination. Jonathan Bach exposed Dr. Dawn Hughes on the stand under oath and says, "Dr. Hughes, you have been retained many times as an expert witness." She said, "Yes." "Dr. Hughes, you train other forensic psychologists, expert witnesses on how to testify in court." She kind of like tried to bob and weave around that, but Jonathan Bach wasn't going for it. He came right back at her. "Dr. Hughes, you train other forensic psychologists and expert witnesses on how to prepare for court and deal with direct examination and cross-examination. Dr. Hughes, you gave a webinar that had 4 parts. The first part was advanced preparation for court. The second part was preparation for court. The third part was conduct on the stand. And the fourth part was navigating direct and cross-examination. She was like, yeah, looking all over there, looking around. But she was done. Her body language was done. She slumped. She became frustrated. You can hear like she didn't like being challenged, right? And exposed by her behavior. Dr. Hughes, you help expert witnesses handle stress in court when they have to deal with objections and when they deal with questions under cross-examination. Dr. Hughes, you teach expert witnesses like yourself at this webinar that you have to know your audience. You have to know the jury. You have to know the judge in case it's a bench trial. Dr. Hughes, in the last 27 years since you've had your practice, you have never once come into court and defended a man accused of being an abuser. Her response was, I don't evaluate offenders. So all of your testimony is for the victim. So how can you consider yourself an expert witness? Dr. Hughes, in the 1990s, you wrote articles. But in the last 25 years, you haven't published any articles. You say on your bio that you're a professor at Cornell College, but this is a voluntary teaching job. You don't mention that in your bio. Dr. Hughes, this webinar that you gave, well, this is how it came out. He says, Dr. Hughes, there was a webinar done in May of 2015 that was entitled Expert Witness Testimony. Dr. Jonathan Bach says, are you familiar with that webinar? She said, who did that? On the stand, she says, who did that? Jonathan Bach said, you gave that webinar that I just went through, how to prepare to be an expert witness on the stand, how to take questions. And you know who paid for that webinar? The webinar that Dr. Hughes gave in May of 2015 that she prepared, where she teaches expert witnesses, forensic psychologists, how to deal with stress on the stand, how to prepare for court, was funded by an organization that gets its funding from the Department of Justice, the Southern District of New York. She has got conflicts of interest all over the place in the Southern District of New York. And she should not be allowed, her testimony should not be allowed in this case. Dr. Hughes, this is Jonathan Bach. You have had a number of meetings with federal prosecutors in this case before this trial. You've met with federal prosecutors and you're a blind witness, and it's okay, if you look it up, it's okay for expert witnesses to meet with the prosecution prior to a trial. You met with them to go over questions and testimony. You met with them in person on video calls. Each meeting was over an hour, and you corresponded with them by email. Jonathan Bach, what facts did the prosecutors give you about this case? You don't know the facts of this case? Last week, Dr. Hughes, this is Jonathan Bach, Puffy's lawyer. After the defense, after Mark Agnifilo, Terry Gallegos, after Puffy's defense team gave their opening statement, you met with prosecutors after that. And you're a blind expert witness. Dr. Hughes, isn't it true that after Cassie gave her testimony for 3 days, you met with federal prosecutors after Cassie gave her testimony? The prosecutors jumped up, sidebar, sidebar. Everybody in the court busted out laughing. Oh, oh. Everybody busted out laughing. They came back from the sidebar. Dr. Hughes, what were you doing meeting with the prosecutors after Cassie gave her testimony and after we gave our opening statement? Dr. Hughes, I was helping them about the case. What topics did you discuss with the prosecutors? You mean to tell me you know nothing about the facts of this case and you needed 6 to 8 meetings to educate these lawyers about a case they brought? Dr. Hughes, isn't it true you helped the prosecutors write the briefs for this case? Prosecutors jumped up, sidebar, sidebar, time out, sidebar. Every time Puffy's lawyers be digging in the ass of these witnesses, the prosecutors jump up and holler out, sidebar. Dr. Hughes, before the trial, the prosecutors shared drafts of your testimony. Dr. Hughes, the help you were giving to the prosecutors, you were emailing the prosecutors for briefs with language on what to put in the brief. And Dr. Hughes, you were doing that to advocate for the prosecution. You were getting paid by the Department of Justice, who employs the prosecution. You met with them again. You knew you would be a witness in this case. Dr. Hughes, you are here as a blind witness. I have no more questions. That was what Jonathan Bach did to, hold on, y'all. That's what Jonathan Bach did to her on the stand. And this is unethical. This is unethical. This is unethical. Hold on, I got it now. Don't go nowhere, I got it. What the hell is this? All right, hold on. I got it down, hold on. Where is it at? This it? Hold on, y'all. Don't go nowhere. I got it. I know I got it. Because I looked up. Here it is. Here it is. I told you I had it. I told you I had it. I got it now. I got it now. Come on now. Prosecutorial misconduct. What is prosecutorial misconduct in federal court? Prosecutorial misconduct refers to a prosecutor's actions or omissions that violate the law, ethical standards, or a defendant's constitutional rights. Prosecutors have a duty to act fairly and must adhere to ethical guidelines. So for the prosecution to even put this lady on the stand, knowing her conflict of interest with their office, knowing she's compromised, knowing she's getting paid by their office, is highly unethical and could be a violation of the constitutional rights of Puffy. Misconduct can deprive a defendant of a fair trial and potentially lead to a wrongful conviction. Misconduct can erode public trust in the justice system and tarnish the credibility of the criminal justice process. Prosecutorial and government misconduct. Prosecutors are not infallible, meaning they're not perfect. They make mistakes, succumb to bias, and sometimes act intentionally to illegally influence the outcomes of cases. This is known as get it right, Sean. This is known as prosecutorial overreach and misconduct. Prosecutorial misconduct obscures truth in court cases and erodes trust in the criminal justice system. What constitutes prosecutorial misconduct? Federal prosecutors must abide by a professional and constitutional duty to act in fairness in criminal proceedings. They are guilty of prosecutorial misconduct when their actions or omissions cause a wrongful conviction or outsized punishment. I searched, can an expert witness meet with the prosecutors in a federal prison case? Yes, an expert witness can meet with the prosecutor in a federal case, but it's crucial to understand the ethical and legal implications. The prosecutor can meet with the expert witness to discuss the case and gather information, but they must disclose all communications with and documents shared with the expert to opposing counsel. This is the expert's role. The expert witness's role is to provide objective, unbiased opinions based on their expertise. They are not to advocate for the prosecution or for the defense. And the fact that she was meeting with these prosecutors after the defense gave their opening argument and after Cassie testified is a clear overstepping of the boundaries and the rules for violation of constitutional rights of Sean Combs, of the ethical standards of the prosecutor's office. She is compromised. She has her allegiance is with the Southern District of New York. She was once an employee of the Southern District of New York, and she has a clear conflict of interest. Peace.